And takes the ride for Andrew Balding. Andrew Balding with the runner a bit later on at Chelmsford as well today. 0 from 5 so far, LOPITO. First time tongue strap, but still relatively early days at the distance.
Yeah, as you say, that's one of the key things. The from 5 is one of the main selling points for this horse. Hasn't had too many goes at all, and the best go was at Windsor last time up. Same sort of situation as this, mile and a quarter. Tried to make all the running, was reeled in very close home by Perfect Refuge, but that was a step forward in previous runs. Probably won't get an easy time up front if they try and repeat the tactics. Miss You Pete in the race for that one, but you'd think that a big chance here for LOPITO, just given the fact that if any of these have got a bit more improvement to come, this is the obvious one.
Jonathan Fisher rides Bristol Missile, who was a winner in his previous career for Richard Hannon. That was back in the summer of 2017 at Sandown over 10 furlongs. The mark now down to 63, now represents Richard Price.
Yeah, when he won that maiden 18 months ago, best part of, he looked a horse with a bit of a future, but just the wheels are somewhat fallen off since then. Even with the current trainer, hasn't done much. Been money for it today. There's been money for it the last 2 races as well, and didn't show an awful lot on those 2 occasions, either at Salisbury or Haydock. Another drop into weights, now dropped what, £5 in the last couple of runs. But even when the money's been down in the last few runs, there hasn't been a huge amount of promise.
Baston Hill by Big Bad Bob out of Jessica Ennis. All-weather winner at Lingfield under Jason Watson earlier in the year. 4th at Lingfield last time.
Yeah, loads of efforts on turf and on the all-weather as well to put this one in the mix. Baston Hill, nothing wrong with the scenario here. Sound surface, 10 furlongs, what the horse wants. It's just whether it can eke out that little bit more improvement to actually go and win one again.
Savannah Moon got himself in the headlines a few weeks ago. He was the horse that so unfortunately injured Tom Eves at Newcastle. Tom Eves, who of course missed the ride on Mabs Cross the other day. Unseating him, and he broke his leg in 3 places. The horse ended up near the A1, didn't he?
Yeah, and hopefully things will be all right for Callum Rodriguez this afternoon. He had a big winner, one of the biggest wins of his season last weekend at Ascot. And the problem with this horse, I think, is the ground for Savannah Moon. Bits of ability, but they're generally playing on softer ground. And when it was declared Monday morning, they probably thought they had their ideal scenario. Maybe not the case now.
Tom Dascombe's looking for a double after his win of Chic and Boogie earlier in the card. He's got Crimson Skies here. First time visor, 0 from 8 so far.
And the best run from this one was on good to soft ground 2 starts ago. That was over a slightly longer trip. I wouldn't be too concerned about the drop-in trip, but it's just whether the ground is now dried out a little bit, and whether it's what Crimson Skies wants.
A bit of an adjustment there to the saddle. Eden Rose for Mick Shannon, Scott McCullough riding. Drawn out in 16. A couple have come out, but the widest draw ultimately. Drops back to 1 mile and 2 now. Yet to win, and this would be their first in 8 attempts.
Yeah, it's been running over 1.5 miles lately. Has got a form at 1.5 miles back at Leicester in May, but since then has been generally disappointed. Didn't run too badly, a good one after that, but not really going for the last 2 starts and needs to get back on track.
KHAZIX has been supported at bigger odds. 5th start now for Dominic French-Davis.
Yeah, with Nicola Curry, so one of the most experienced apprentices in the race. Stepping up in trip. Been over 7.5 furlongs and 1 mile last few runs, so has got stamina to prove as well as just how much ability it's got. It actually ran okay in a bit of a blanket finish at Windsor on Humboldt Current 4 starts ago. First run for Dominic French-Davis. Hasn't really built on that.
Nicola Curry looking for just the 65th win of 2018. Eulogising about what Jason Watson had done the other day, that he'd got to 95 earlier this week, having only had 2 winners in 2017, so 93. But it's been a fantastic year. It started obviously incredibly well with spare parts, didn't it? But yeah, it's been a fantastic year through and through, just about, hasn't it?
It has, and big winner for Racing Sand last week at Ascot. And you'd imagine she'll keep the ride in the Balmoral
double,
handicap.
isn't it? Miss You Pete, Tom Greattricks rides for Mark Usher, Newbury winner a few starts ago. 54 races, but actually hasn't had a single try at 10 furlongs. Is unraced beyond an extended 1 and 1 miles.
Yeah, I just wonder if they're going to go to the front. The horse's general running style is to go from the front, so we'll have to see at this slightly longer trip. They probably will be, if not front, and certainly handy with the horse. One at Newbury 3 starts ago. The track is a pretty ordinary event, and Wasn't disgraced last time at Chester. He's capable of a decent run and could hit the frame again today.
Let's have a look at the betting. Still got a fair few of them to start making their way forward for this apprentice handicap as we hit post time. LOPITO is 5-2, and Savannah Moon, the horse who went AWOL last time, who so unfortunately caused Tom Eves to be injured, is now 6-1, well supported. Bristol Missile is 5-1, Basin Hill is 8-1, Crimson Sky is 10s, Miss You Pete at 12s, 14s from 11s is Eden Rose. Collate is up in trip, second run since joining Amy Murphy and having had a wind up.
Yeah, it has got the stamina to prove Collate, and never really figured in the race at Linkfield last time. Held up at the back and not quite sure 10 furlongs what the horse wants. Bit hard to get a handle on because it hasn't shown much in the 3 starts now for 2 different trainers since coming over from France best part of a year ago. Decima,
Carlisle winner a couple of starts ago, ran at the same course last time.
Yeah, and you have to wonder where that victory came from given the rest of the form this season, but that sort of scenario is what you want, a bit of cut in the ground.
Well supported at bigger odds.
Yeah. Generally when the money's down, he's of interest, and soft ground as he showed that time at Carlisle and at Beverley for his previous winning, what he wants does go well for young, inexperienced jockeys.
And any support for Star of Athena, which was flagged up by Barry Orr earlier, I think is now 25-1. Star of Athena, who's running in a handicap for the first time, up to 10 furlongs for the first time, has been allotted 66 for the handicap bow. Going forward is Bristol Missile. Any final thoughts on this before we hand up to John?
No, the one you mentioned there, Star of Athena, that maiden form at Foss-Lass behind Wolford and Preacher Man has not worked out at all. There's Ginger Jack, one of the old boys of the party going in, and
yeah, last win in August 2016. The mark's dropped £21 since June.
Yeah, well, pretty much for a reason. Has got a fair bit on his plate here, you would have thought.
Faye McManaman riding the 11-year-old Ginger Jack. He's just refusing to go in. This son of refused to bend at the moment, but hopefully he won't cause too much of a delay and will get himself in, this 11-year-old who's looking for a first win since the summer of 2016. And with that, hopefully, they've withdrawn, so we'll go up to John Hunt.
For Ginger Jack, who wouldn't go into the stalls. There'll be an announcement about that after the race with regard to its betting implications. But up front, Miss You Pete is the first one to show. LOPITO has made a really good start as well, and Basin Hill keeps these two company in the very early stages. Meanwhile, KHAZIX is towards the back end of the field early on, and so too is Money or Your Life in last place. So having got to the front, Miss You Pete now just puts the brakes on slightly. Basin Hill and LOPITO second and third, followed then by Decima in the hoops and Collate on the wide outside, taking closer order now, disputing 5th place. Star of Athena comes next, and then Savannah Moon towards the inside. Bristol Missile follows those. Crushed is towards the outside of the party. Further back then, Crimson Skies. Eden Rose is the one right upon the wide outside. KHAZIX is last but one, and last of all is Money or Your Life. So they race out of the back straight and leave beautiful sunshine behind them for a final time here in this closing Racing UK HD on Sky 426 Apprentice Handicap. And Basin Hill and Gary Marn now have the lead from Miss You Pete in second place. Decima and LOPITO still right there in third and fourth. They're followed by Savannah Moon, who's tucked in behind them. Ridden along, Star of Athena, with Collate catching the eye to the outside to some extent, and Eden Rose also picking his way through from the back end of the field. KHAZIX is flat out. Bristol Missile is under heavy pressure, doesn't look the likely winner at that point, neither does Crushed, and they're racing now with just over 2 furlongs left to go. Miss You Pete's regained the lead here from Basin Hill, as LOPITO now comes under a drive, so too Savannah Moon. From the back end of the field, Money or Your Life, and Emma Taff picking up pretty nicely towards the wide outside. Basin Hill's got the lead back from Miss You Pete, as now Savannah Moon tries to close in on those. They're followed by LOPITO and Money or Your Life. Basin Hill is clinging on here as Savannah Moon makes a big thrust towards the outside. Basin Hill, Gary Marn from Savannah Moon, Miss You Pete in behind those, then Decima and LOPITO.
It's the second win of the year for Basin Hill. Gary Marn riding the horse for the first time for Mark Usher. and has got there at 8-1 from the well-backed and strong finishing Savannah Moon. Miss UP, another to race up there, prominently just in the slipstream of the eventual winner, was up there as well. You can spot the eventual second, was about fifth, and really it involved the two up front for a long way.
Yeah, basically it doesn't normally go from the front, but it was either on or just off the lead all the way through the race. Miss Pete mentioned first go at 10 furlongs today, seemed to be fine at the trip and ran a solid enough race. And for the connections of Savannah Moon, the ground may just have dried out a bit too much from ran well enough in second, and when a little bit of rain comes before the turf season finishes, Savannah Moon may be able to pick up one of these little races, a 0 to 65 contest or something like that. LOPITO, big disappointing, well enough placed in a race that not many again came out off the back, but LOPITO never really threatened in the final couple of furlongs, and that's a bit of a tame effort. But Basin Hill, plenty of consistent efforts and gets the head back in front.
And the more we watch the races that have emerged on the round course here, the efforts of Pure Shores that we harked back a couple of races ago to make the ground up that the horse did from off the pace was quite exceptional.
Yeah, Shabba was another one who came from off the pace. That was a much stronger pace, but that was a particularly good effort by Pure Shores given the tactical reasons there, Nick.
Yeah, indeed. You see there LOPITO a few from the left, but the eventual winner was Basin Hill. And as you said, Miss UP, who 55 races down, this was the first attempt at an out-and-out 10 furlong. Savannah Moon, who felt unfortunately unseated the rider at Newcastle last time and got himself well off the course on the route to the A1. None the worse for that, and was closing all the way to the line, but wasn't able to get there on the day. But you can see where the money ultimately was down for a reason. Hasn't quite got there.
Yeah, and the money was also down today again on Bristol Missile, but that's another poor effort by that horse, and presumably it works okay at home because it's been punted a few times on the track, but it's just not happening at all for that horse.
Right, we'll wrap up the full result. We've got one more to come from Ludlow, and then we'll move on to the Kempton coverage a little bit later on. But I can tell you that the winner was 8-1. They went without Ginger Jack. Came a little bit of a shock, and they burst out in the stall. So